right, it's big week, Neil. We're sitting here. Big week for all the quarterback battles around the country. Two in this league that are pretty prominent. The one that's probably the most prominent is at Alabama. You got Mac and Russell. The Mac obviously was with the guys at Washington, came over. He is a fourth-year junior. You got Keelan Russell in his second year, high profile, extremely talented. And one of those two has to get the reins going into the season. Very big week. Been in part of these before in the past, and I'll explain that in a second. And then you got Tennessee with McIntyre and Brandon battling out. Same kind of situation, but not really. McIntyre's a second-year player. Faison Brandon will be a first-year incumbent guy. And here's the thing is every situation doesn't get talked about enough. Every single situation is different. And these things usually work themselves out, okay? But when you got just what goes into, because being in those staff rooms and what goes into decisions and things like that, when you got a quarterback battle that's that close, a lot of times it really comes down to I always say this, the players, it works itself out because it's almost like the players around them kind of figure it out, right? Mm-hmm. One of those two is going to be better with the other 10, okay? Who makes the other 10 guys better? Okay, whether that be making the right decisions, right protections, whether it be, hey, we can't block anybody up front. This guy can escape the pocket because he's not a statue. Okay, maybe that's the case. But what makes us a better program? And then there's another thing, a factor that's been added in the last few years that really hasn't been a factor before. But let's take, either one of these schools. If you name Keelan Russell,
okay,
or you name in any of these situations, you're going to probably, more likely than not, you're going to lose the other guy come January. Because everybody in this situation, whether it be Mac and Russell at Alabama, or it be McIntyre or Brandon at Tennessee, these guys can play. They're good players, okay? They wouldn't be in this situation.
Yeah, they'll have offers.
They're going to get overpaid to go somewhere and be the guy come. I mean, you saw the same thing at Kentucky. You saw the same thing at Louisville.
Sure.
You see guys that are moving around because of this, right? And when you make this decision, like I can see this at Alabama, for example. It's like, okay, do you really want to lose Keelan Russell at Alabama? Like, I don't know if Mac may start the first game, but I would damn near just be surprised. I would.
Sure.
Unless he just is not the guy. And I'm not there every day watching him. I'm not in the meetings with him. I don't know anything about it. I would just be damn near shocked if Keelan Russell, by the end of the year, is not the starter. He may not start the season, but if he's not the starter at the end, do you really want to risk losing him in the portal?
Well, it depends whether you think DeBoer is going to replace Ryan Day after Ryan Day gets fired going 6-6.
There you go. We're not even talking about that. All right. Same thing in Tennessee, right? Tennessee, you got a guy that's got 4 years left versus a guy that's got 5 years left, right?
Yeah.
And so if you go and are you willing to name McIntyre the starter, knowing that Faison Brandon is probably going to leave if you name this guy the starter? No,
they're going to name Faison the starter and give him every opportunity for at least a little while. And then if he struggles, they'll go to McIntyre. But they know that McIntyre is going to give them a second season.
Yeah, and look, I've been through these before. Probably one of the, I guess I can talk inside baseball now. I don't think I've ever told this one before. When this was been in 2014, we had the quarterback battle between Blake Sims and Jake Coker, okay? And Jake had transferred from Florida State.
And who was the other kid?
Blake Sims.
No, there was another kid too.
No, not then.
In 14?
Yeah, no. I mean, I was there.
Oh, 15 was the year.
15 was the year you had Blake Barnett, and you had...
There was another kid that started against Ole Miss that day.
You had Cooper Bateman. All right, but the battle for starting, that would have been 14, was between Jake Coker and Blake Sims.
Got it.
And to the point, okay, like we had a staff meeting on that Saturday going into a scrimmage. We had scrimmages on Saturday. We had a staff meeting that morning, and I remember Coach telling the staff that, hey, after the scrimmage, I'm going to name Jake the starter in the media. Everybody's like on the same page. And
this was Kiffin's first year as OC?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Lane's first year as OC. And we go into the scrimmage, and it was just pissing rain. I'm talking about like most teams would have gone inside or canceled. No, we were just talking about that weather a minute ago. All right, no, we were outside. We were in Bryant-Denny. I mean, it was the hardest it rained that I can. I mean, I've only can think of one other time being outside when it rained that bad and playing football. It rained bad.
Okay.
And Jake really struggled. Jake had a tough time. Like, he threw a bunch of picks. I mean, but everybody did. He just struggled because of the rain, the weather, had a really bad day. And then Blake gets in, and he was running around making plays with his feet, doing things, and wasn't struggling as bad because he used his feet more and things like that. And then we get to and so I'm thinking, because I went with Coach to the press conference because I was taking him to go talk to some recruits after, and Coach doesn't even bring it up. Well, he ends up in the middle of next week flipping the script. And from that point on, like, we had a staff meeting where he was going to name Jake Coker the starter. And he decided at the scrimmage, he decided not to do it at that time, and he ends up naming Blake the starter. So little things can happen that way, can change, but at the end of the day, usually it sorts itself out.
Would that team have been a better team with Coker at quarterback? It was a good team.
Yeah, we went to the playoffs. I mean, we lost and we went to the semifinals, so it's hard to say. I don't know. I love them both. I think they're both awesome dudes. I've known Jake longer, obviously, because he was with me at St. Paul's. I mean, I don't know. They were both good teams. I don't know if different era, man. Different era.
Sure.
At that time, while quarterback play has always been important. At that time at Alabama, with the depth that we had, particularly on both sides of the ball, look, man, don't lose the game.
Don't lose the game.
You can go, we're not asking you to win it. We're sure as the hell not asking you to lose it, right? So it was more of that. And Blake did a good job making plays for us. Like, when we played LSU that year, we ended up driving down the length of the field. I don't know if because we got out of trouble when they had their ears pinned back. I think teams struggled to pressure the quarterback because Blake was such a threat with his feet. I don't know if Jake would have been that much of a threat that year. But look, man, when you're like, hey, here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to turn around and hand the ball off to T.J. Yeldon. Oh, if he goes down, we're going to turn around and hand the ball off to Kenyon Drake. Oh, if he goes down, we're going to turn around and hand the ball off to Derrick Henry. Oh, if he goes down, we're going to turn around and hand the ball off to Damian Harris or Bo Scarborough or, Alvin Kamara. Like, the depth was just so much different then than it is now. That you just didn't have to. It was just a different game.
Yeah, totally.
Just a different game.
Sure.
So, but I think it's a big week. I think.
And back then, there wasn't a scenario where there would be 10 of the top 16, 10 of the 10 teams out of the SEC in the top 27. Just didn't exist.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, like, okay, you hear this conversation come up a lot when it comes to these topics. It's like, hey, can you play both quarterbacks? It depends. I think if you have two quarterbacks that have a lot of the same, this is one thing that nobody wants to talk about on any of these shows, probably because they don't understand it. But everybody's like, oh, there's a saying that, if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. Or then there's some people like, oh, you can have two quarterbacks. It's all dependent on one thing, and nobody talks about it. It's what can your quarterbacks do? And what I mean by that is their skill set. You can't say you don't have enough reps at practice. If you got a pocket guy versus a guy that's a mobile guy, right? Mm-hmm. You can't go and say, hey, they both can play equally because you can't they're different packages. They're different plays, okay? So you can't go spend half your time running +1 runs with a quarterback and the other time playing in 5- and 6-man protection. You just don't have enough reps to rep it all, and you don't ever have an identity as an offense. If you have two quarterbacks that have a lot of the same attributes, sure, you can. So it's all depending on everything's different. Nothing is, two things can be true at once. I thought, and this is not unusual, but I always thought Dan Mullen probably did the best as it's ever been done in the game with multiple quarterbacks in developing quarterbacks, because he would always have a package, a small package, but for his quarterback, for both quarterbacks.
What she said.
Yeah. Pause and no diddy. Mm-hmm. All right. But he always had a package that it helped those guys develop and get reps going into the next year, and he always did the best job with that, wherever he was. And so, but he didn't have the whole script or package wasn't the same as both guys. And so if he ever had to go to both guys, then he could expand it without having to confuse the other 10 guys. When you have two quarterbacks, if you're having a quarterback battle, this is very important. If you have a quarterback battle, the one thing is the success of your season is also going to depend on how good those other guys around him are, because regardless of who you choose, if it's Mac, if it's Russell, if it's McIntyre, or it's Brandon, or if you're in a quarterback battle, those other 20 positions are going to play really well for you to get your feet wet because you're going to make mistakes. So there you go.